So good games, guys. It was a lot of fun to watch, especially that last one.
Yeah.
Uh, but let's not get into that one just quite yet. What did you guys think of Fruitland? We'll reverse the order from last time. Let Otter go first. See what she has to say here. Or maybe I shouldn't. Seems like it keeps things smoother the other way. Just because Otter needs to type out a response. Yeah, we'll just keep it the other way. It's fine. Get that
Okay.
get that typed in as soon as you can, Otter. Leancy, go ahead.
Um. Well, I did the all in, and it worked. It's the first time I've ever done an all in against a Zerg,
Mm.
and I was really surprised. I mean, it was really nerve wracking, and when it worked, and then I was just like, oh my god, what do I do now? I haven't learned anything else. I was like, oh no, so I couldn't do it again, and then we led into game two. But the actual map, yeah, it was quite interesting. I was spending a lot of time just looking at it, to be honest.
I had a feeling both players were. I kind of realized halfway through that I'm like, oh, I'm probably screwing their macro up by selecting this, but whatever. It worked out more or less. Yeah, what'd you think of the map, Otter? Freeland was hilarious and very much not appetizing since my side was covered in creep. I think I actually distracted myself way too much with the map and totally flaked a lot of stuff. Like I said, it could happen. First time anybody plays on a map. Um, I think if I remember correctly, I may have actually been one of the people who the first time I played on Altrazine Stronghold, I like walled off the wrong side of the base. So I walled off my
Yeah,
natural
I've
and
done
then
that.
left my entrance open, and I was like, ah, and then I died to
Yeah,
something stupid, and I was like,
that
oh
hurts. That hurts. I done the same thing in the 2v2. I was like, where are these coming from? What is going on?
no.
And then I realised, oh, I see there's another ramp at the back.
Yeah,
Right.
and you're like, well,
Yeah, so
that's
that
I feel
happened.
very silly right now, but okay.
Yeah.
The plus side is at least it's funny, and
No
you
one
just
ever
get
has
to
to know
laugh at
that.
it. Yeah, and you get to laugh at it, so it's not that bad. Um,
Yeah, I tend to find the way I see it is I'm not good enough to actually to feel any pain when I lose. I just start laughing, and I literally every time I win, my arm just goes thrusting to the air. I'm just like, yes! It's just such a shock to me. Oh my god, I didn't die! It's just shocking.
it's
So
actually
yeah,
remarkably similar to how Day Nine approaches things. I've noticed. When he loses, he's like, and then when he wins, he's like, yeah, he like freaks
yeah.
out.
It's like, oh my god, that's so amazing. It
But
is
yeah,
quite shocking.
but Fruitland is definitely a hilarious map. I cannot
Mm.
blame you for that sentiment, Usher. I like the idea, and to be honest, the map itself is it's interesting. I will admit that the way they have it constructed clearly messes up the pathing of the units really badly, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, anybody who's played StarCraft One or Brood War at all, even in the campaign, knows that it's still better. It's still better than that was. Oh, the stupid little tiny chokes in that game, man. Try getting 3 dragoons to walk through them. It's hard. Like take two, run over to the side, run one through, and you're like, I'm microing a ramp. There's nothing even here. Ah! But anyway, that was that. And so that happens with the first game. Second game goes completely differently. I have a Mutalisk play from Otter. Um, Thoughts on that game, guys? Leon Seed first.
Yeah, that was good. Oh, I actually I played with Fast a few hours ago, just
Hmm.
practicing, and he did a lot of the muters, and I was just like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? And then when I saw muters from Ottr, and I was just like, oh my god, now what? What do I do? Because like I said, I done the all in, and I couldn't do it again because I figured, well, she's gonna know what I'm doing now. She's gonna see that I've only got one gas. She's gonna see, oh, okay, so she's going for the all in again. And I literally only had that one play. I'm so bad when it comes to builds. I just do Blink Colossus and Zealots. And maybe Sentries. That's mainly it. That is my
Hmm.
entire Protoss world.
And I noticed that
So
you
I was just
actually
in it from there.
used. I think if we wanted to put it into terms, I think it was like a 3 gate robo opening. which was interesting to me because I haven't seen anybody do that in a very long time. So I had no idea what would happen.
And that's why it failed. No,
Well, I mean, it did limit
no, yeah,
you.
it was an interesting one.
It did limit you a little bit. I mean, in that you don't have enough gas to try and switch into stargates. So when you see the Mutalisk there, you're like, no.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I wish I could tell you what you should have done there, but I'm like, I don't know. Anytime I got myself into that situation, I just died, and then I ended up switching to Phoenixes for that matchup because I had no idea what to do.
Yeah, I can't seem to work any sort of air units, just void rays. I'm literally in that sort of position where let's start with the basics and then move maybe up to phoenixes, and because with the phoenixes you've got to sort of have two. The way I work it is you've got to have one to hold it, the unit, and then one to attack the unit that you want to hold up. So I just find it too hard to micro and to
Well,
organize my units in that way.
yeah, no matter how good you are, it's actually once you're actually in an engagement with Phoenixes, it's almost impossible to do anything else. Like
Yeah,
it just requires you have to pay attention to them constantly because if they can just sit there
yeah,
for 2 seconds and then they're all dead because they're like made of paper.
yeah.
So yeah, I can understand that as well. Anyway, Otter, your thoughts. Here we go. I like Mutus. I never use Mutus, so I decided to use Mutus. Good reasoning. I had actually no idea what I was going to be up against, so I sort of just winged it. I also came to the conclusion that I'm really, really bad at watching multiple bases. So if I just stayed on two, which I'm sure is really bad as well, but I can't multitask if I don't know any hotkeys or macro or anything. Which is, it's understandable. The odd thing is, Otter, that you actually kind of stumbled into what is actually a very effective two base all in if the Protoss doesn't see it coming. So, well, more you know right there. But it definitely did work out. So I would imagine your lack of familiarity with it was probably what led you to choosing not to do it for the third game. I would expect. And let's go ahead and move on to the third game. Leon, see what you think of that. It turned into kind of quite the brawl, if I had to say.
Yeah. I I started off with the DTs because I was thinking, well, we'll try that one obviously because I've got the StarCraft app on my phone and I was going through those sort of every now and again, and I sort of noticed the whole the DT plays. So I thought I'll try and move into that, see where that leads me. And then I noticed that she didn't see anything, so I was like, oh my goodness, that's kind of working. But then she turned the overlords into the overseers, and I was like, okay, so that one's done. So then I decided to go for Tempest because I'm wait, is it Tempest? Was it Tempest that I used?
For that game, it started out as a zealot kind of
Yeah, with
stalker
DTs, and
thing with
then
some DTs, and then it turned into Colossus and High
yeah,
Templar. Lots of High Templar. Very
yeah,
good
that's it. High
storms, by the
Templar.
way.
Sorry. So yeah, I put some High Templar in there, and I figured I'll use their Storm, and it kind of it worked. I
Oh,
saw it was kind of like a base trade kind of thing where it's like, okay, I'll attack you for a bit, and then we'll sort of attack each other and kill a little bit of each other's units, and then sort of get back some army, and then we'll go at it again. It just kind of felt like one of those sort of fights. It was fun. I enjoyed that. I
yeah.
did kind of the whole game. I did kind of worry and like, oh my god, these everyone watching. Oh my goodness,
You
it's
know,
taking so long.
the
Nothing's
thing
happening. I
is,
was so worried.
the storm was a really good choice because it didn't limit you from the fact that Zerg had at one point actually 3 armor and 3 attack, and you had 1 attack, which meant that like if you didn't have the storm there, the entire army just gets vaporized because that's how much
Yeah,
damage the hydras can do. So it was a very interesting situation. I mean, you can definitely see from that game that compositional choices make a big difference if they're too skewed in one direction. And of course, stuff goes on. There was that obvious little move command mistake, though. You both did similar things actually throughout the game.
yeah.
Um,
I do
but
that
yeah,
all the time. I did the
man,
same thing with the Zaki match.
happens to everybody from time to time. Otter. Yeah, I don't think there's as much of a reason to like. Oh, there you go. She says, "Oh God, that was so long." Between the game and my cat attacking my feet, that was just ridiculous. I sort of freaked out when I saw the DT, so I guess it turned out okay in the end. I decided to make Hydras since I never really used them too much either, and it went way too bloody long, and there was a major problem I started having there. Was so much Zergy stuff on the map, I literally could not figure out what was going on. There was just so much of my own crap everywhere. Yeah, that's not a you're not alone with that. It actually happens to most players when you haven't practiced a lot. When you get up to about 2-3 bases, you just get overwhelmed. There's just so much stuff happening everywhere that it can be really hard to keep track of. It's actually a pretty simple problem though. You can solve it either just by playing a lot, or even just by going into a custom game and just macroing until you get to 200, because it makes your brain more familiar with everything you need to do. But yeah, it's like, believe me, I understand that. I had problems with that for months, and I still kind of do sometimes, just not as badly. But yeah, yeah, good games. It was a lot of fun to watch. Believe me, I actually set 2 hours for each of these matches just in case there's a couple long games in there. So don't ever feel like that's a problem to me. It's not. I fully expect it to happen. I hope you don't go like on the level of that crazy game that went for 3 hours.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
not making that up, but if it does, it does.
Yeah, no, I remember that. That was insane. That was good.
That was there was actually a couple of those games. The craziest one I ever saw was one where Cats was playing against a Protoss. Protoss player got up to a max Tempest army, and the Cats just had static defenses everywhere, so they couldn't really attack each other. And he manages to steal a probe and then build a bunch of Archons, and that's what ran that's what ran the Protoss over. It's like he built Protoss, that's how he won. But anyway, twas quite the game.
I had a lot of fun. I really did.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have been super hungry halfway through that as well. I don't. I would have been like going, I'm so tired, but thankfully it didn't happen. Mana versus Fire Cake was another game that was similar to that, where they just got into this giant stalemate where they stared at each other for 2 hours. It was kind of like I didn't even watch the replay. I just like I got to the point where stuff stopped changing, and I started clicking forward every 5 minutes. I'm like, nothing's happening. What is going on?
Yeah.
But anyway, yes. Thanks for the games, guys. It was fun. Any final comments from either of you?
Just thank you for having me, and thank you to the day nights and everyone in the chat, day heart, all of that. That's it. Thank you.
Yep. Otter says, I'm so hungry right now. Thanks all, Day 9 Chat, Omega, and Leand. Oh, thank you. And yeah, guys, that was a good match. I think we should have you guys play again at some point. So we'll get to work on that. Anyway, see y'all
Yeah.
later.